Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Film Room Podcast. This is episode 18. I'm your host, Joe Baress, along with my co-host, Joby Fawcett. Joby, how are you doing on this Tuesday afternoon?
We're doing well, Joe. We're in the final countdown, obviously, to Christmas break for everybody. I know a lot of the student athletes out there are pretty excited about exiting stage left for their holiday vacations.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
But they've still got some competitions, Joe, over the break. You know, they can't fill up on turkey and ham like you can.
That's true. I don't miss that, Joby. I'll be honest. I don't miss that. I like filling up on the ham and turkey. So
I know you do.
So one of the athletes that has some games left before the Christmas break is our Times-Tribune Athlete of the Week, Nico Antoniacci of Riverside basketball. Nico, how we doing, man?
Good. How about you guys?
Good. So Nico last week he scored 21 points, including 4 3-pointers in a 66-50 victory over Scranton. That was last Wednesday. And he also scored 20 points in the number 1 Vikings 69-66 overtime victory over Allentown Central Catholic on Saturday. The freshman has scored 109 points through his first 4 games. I believe it's 117 now through his first 5. Nico, I want to start with this. You know, these big early non-conference games, non-league games for you. You know, how important is it for you to get that experience earlier in the season?
Yeah, it's good to get that experience early on in the season. It's what I've been working for all off season, and it's just good to have that experience now. So I already have that experience for the playoffs when my time is ready.
Nico, for me, I want to start with this for you because you have come into the Lackawanna League with a terrific resume already, even though you're, 14 years old. You obviously took a lot of the AAU tournaments by storm over the last 2 seasons. But when did you really start to kind of find your, I would say, rhythm as a basketball player to be so talented and really so well skilled at such an early age?
Yeah, mainly in just like 6th grade, playing in all the Riverside leagues and playing with the Riverside kids in my grade. We have leagues when we were younger, and I'd always play really good with them. We'd win championships and leagues. And then I kind of just started to fall in love with basketball at a young age and always loved it and just started to work on it and kept getting better, and there's where I'm at now.
Nico, for people who don't know, you're a freshman. You know, what kind of player are you? What kind of player are you, and what do you kind of pride yourself on as a basketball player?
Yeah, I'm a good shooter. I can handle the ball. I have good IQ on the court, know where everyone's at. I feel like I have really good instincts too. I'm good at reading my defender and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, Nico, that stuff definitely was evident when I got a chance to finally see you live in person. You know, you and I spoke over the summer about some of the things that you had accomplished at some of these AAU invitationals and showcase events. But to see you in person, look, it is beneficial to you, and I know you'll agree, that you play at Riverside, a team that had 5 starters back from last year. And we talked a little bit about this in the post game about how they have helped you make the transition from being a freshman basketball player as an 8th grader to now a varsity basketball player as a freshman. Kind of tell everybody how that has gone for you in these early part of the season.
Yeah, these guys have helped me out a lot all off season, just pushing me to be the best basketball player I can be and just helping me, telling me what I can do to make the team that it can be down the road and towards playoff time. That's what we're just trying to work towards. And we just have great senior guys on the team who just push everyone in practice, not even just me, the whole team. Just want everyone to be the best player they can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Nico, obviously, you scored 34 points in your first varsity game. Obviously, you didn't seem to have any nerves, apparently, but, you know, what was your first varsity game like for you? What was that like for you?
Yeah, I definitely did have some nerves, though, before the game. Was a little nervous, but once you see the first shot going, everything just goes away, and it was just another basketball game for me.
Nico, let's talk a little bit about the game against Scranton. Scranton is a very talented team and won the District 2 Class 6A championship last year is going to be one of those teams that's really ranked very high throughout the entire course of this season. You have a friend of yours, Tony Battaglia, who plays for Scranton. So what was that like for you to be out there? And tell me about how great this team played in that atmosphere against Scranton.
Yeah, we shot the ball very, very well. I think we were like 11 of 21 from three. And when the team shoots like that, it's very tough to beat. And when a team shoots like that and you play hard, it's really, really hard to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving forward, you have a big game against, my alma mater, Holy Cross, I believe on Thursday. How you guys kind of preparing for that game, and what are you looking forward to there?
Yeah, we were preparing for this game like all off season, and everyone's been talking about it in the whole town, even the whole area. And we know it's going to be a crazy environment, but as long as we stick together on the court and just play how we've been playing, I think we'll be all right.
Nico, tell us a little bit about a player that maybe you emulate or like to look up to or try to pattern your game after. You're clearly very well educated in basketball and you are developing your skills every day that you're at practice or at a game. Who are you a biggest fan of?
Devin Booker. Really, I like Devin Booker. I think he's like super smooth. And I like his jump shot. I try to like have his form and stuff when I was younger, and I used to copy in the driveway. So yeah, I like Devin Booker.
Yeah, you also said you're a fan of Steph Curry, and you like to. You also might want to add Grayson Allen to your dinner of three people. What do you admire about those guys?
Yeah, Steph Curry, obviously, just the way he shoots the ball, the passion him and Grayson Allen play with. I always love that when he's younger. Like when people be making shots, having a bunch of energy, and both those guys have similar traits like that. So I always just loved that when I was younger.
Nico, so far so good in your freshman year individually, but obviously with the tremendous performances that Riverside has had as a team, you had a great game over the weekend in Allentown Central Catholic with some outstanding talent in its own right. That game went to overtime, and you had some big clutch shots in the fourth quarter and into overtime. How was that game for you, especially coming off of the Scranton victory, for you and your teammates to respond? It's been, early on here, there are a lot of weapons on this Riverside team, and at different points of every game, it seems like somebody's rising to the challenge.
Yeah, every night we know anyone could score 20 points, and as long as we just keep playing hard, and after the Scranton game, we just really wanted to beat Allentown Central Catholic as well, and we got down at halftime, and we even got down again in the third quarter for 17, but we just kept playing hard, didn't stop believing, and we ended up with the win.
Nico, what's it like? We kind of got into this a little bit earlier, but like you coming in as a freshman to this really good Riverside team, why has the transition been so smooth? What's so great about playing at Riverside?
I know everyone on the team, and it wasn't like uncomfortable for me to join the team. I knew all these guys. Like I said, small community. I played with some of these guys when I was younger on Riverside, like youth basketball teams, and it was just comfortable for me to come in and just do my thing.
All right, Nico, listen, we know you have the big game coming up on Thursday. I have to get there at like 4:30 so I can get a seat just to cover the game. But after that, you have the holidays coming up. How much are you looking forward to the Christmas break? You have a holiday tournament there at Riverside that the school hosts every year, the Taylor Lions Club tournament. It's an exciting time. And as a freshman, it's your first real experience in the holiday tournament scene.
Yeah, definitely super excited. I think we have some family coming in to watch me. I'm happy to spend time with them and have some school off. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you have a big family there in Riverside School District. A lot of immediate family and cousins and everybody else. Antoniacci, a very familiar name in Riverside. So it could be a lot of fun for you in the holidays.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Nico, last thing from me, obviously you're a freshman, it's a little early to probably look into the future, but what are you kind of interested in maybe in school or anything, or what are you kind of looking to do in the future? Do you have any idea?
I would love to be a basketball coach one day, but if that doesn't happen, then I want to do something with like therapy with like sports and athletes and stuff.
Very cool.
Well, you off to a great start, Nico. There's no question about that. You are mature way beyond your years as a basketball player, and you're doing really well with this stuff. I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to you. I'll be seeing you on Thursday, all right?
All right, thank you. Happy holidays to you guys too.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas, Nico. All right. That was our athlete of the week, Nico Antoniacci. He's, we already talked about him, Joby, but, he's continues his fantastic start to, which should be a fantastic high school career.
Joe, so I heard grumblings about how talented Nico was a couple of years ago, even before he got onto the freshman level. His AAU background is incredible. His accomplishments there, his recruiting rating is very high for as young a player as he is. And, I don't put overly a lot of stock into those things because, if you're getting out there and you're being seen a lot, your rating is always going to improve and go up. This summer, when I had found out just how talented he was, and he had played a grade level higher, and he was named an All-American at two of the big showcases over the summer. We don't attend those. We don't cover them, so I hadn't really seen him in person. So I really looked forward to seeing him play against local talent here in the area. And I sent out the tweet very early on in that game against Scranton last week. He is as advertised. And look, if you're a basketball fan, you're a high school basketball fan in this area, and you have an opportunity to just go out, you have no ties maybe necessarily, or even if you do, to a hometown school or a hometown team, and you want to get out and see him play, it's kind of a two-pronged benefit for you. One, he's an extremely talented young man, and two, he plays on an extremely talented and veteran team, which makes the pressure on him a lot less and allows him to mature and develop at the rate he needs to do that. And he certainly exceeded my early season expectations. He is quite a talent. And this team with Jerry Rose and Braden Rose and Connor McNally and Matthew Godleski and Richie Kostoff coming off the bench, this is a very talented and deep team, Joe, and they're a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's an interesting part too is, him coming in as a freshman. Obviously these kids all know each other, but, I think it's really impressive for them as a team to recognize that, okay, he's younger, but, he belongs in, he's the team's leading scorer. And, I think it speaks to the team mentality there that, we don't care that he's a young guy. He's a great player and we want him right in the lineup. And, that's things that people do obviously at every level. The good teams, they recognize talent and they're all about just putting the talent where it belongs and not worrying about who's, junior, senior, whatever level. If he's good, he's good. And obviously this kid is good.
Yeah, Joe, credit to Josh Aniska, the head coach at Riverside there. He just earned his 100th career win Monday night against Montrose. He's the kind of guy who has to play psychologist when it comes to that as well, because look, we all have feelings. We all have, a belief that we should be starting, certainly when you're a senior. And a lot of credit, too, goes to Richie Kostoff. We know the character of this young man, the outstanding leader he was on the football field. Early on, he has been the guy who kind of conceded his starting spot to Nico Antoniacci. And Richie now comes off the bench and does the things that he does real well, and that's rebound the basketball, play intense physical defense. And it's a nice system and working program that they have there at Riverside. And again, you have to look at Josh Aniska, who's implemented this program. He's had them kind of work together throughout the course of the summer. And those who didn't play football were able to practice and get ready during the fall season. And look, Joe, this game on Thursday is really going to be a heck of a barometer. It's a shame it had to be played before Christmas.
Yeah.
I wish whenever these things happen, Joe, again, the process of putting together a schedule is done through what they call the matrix. And, you're a lot smarter than I am, so you know what that means. But anyway, when the Matrix shoots out Riverside and Holy Cross as the first game in the Lackawanna League, couldn't you just reshuffle the deck?
Right.
Right. They do that often when you're playing blackjack out with your buddies, Joe. It just doesn't seem like the right time for these two teams to play. They're going to play again, obviously, later on in the season, but I would love to see this matchup after the holidays. But we're going to get it on Thursday, and I'll be there, and hopefully because remember, Joe, Holy Cross is an extremely talented basketball team as well. And this year, Joe, both of these teams are in Class 3A in District 2 because your alma mater got kicked up a classification for the success points and having two kids who transferred into the school district who play basketball. So they're not just competing for the Division 2 championship in the Lackawanna League. They'll also be the top two teams going against each other for the District 2 Class 3A berth as well. And I would not be surprised, Joe, if these two teams are not among the top 5 in the state for Class 3A this year.
Oh, definitely, Joby. First of all, I want to set the record straight on one thing. The only Matrix that I know about involves Keanu Reeves as Neo, Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus, and Carrie Mullis as Trinity.
Very good, yes. So, you're an expert in that, right?
Number one, yes. That's the only one I know about. Number two, yeah, we'll get to this later, but, maybe the best wrestling matchup of the year as well, when you speak to scheduling, is going to be tomorrow's West Scranton Wallenpaupack match. It's just like, you wish you end with that one, but, whatever.
Well, it's bizarre. We just came out of football season where Scranton Prep played Valley View, our top two teams in the preseason.
Right.
And those teams ended up our top two teams at the end of the season.
Right.
They played in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are in the first league game in basketball. The top two teams in the preseason were Holy Cross and Riverside. They have now since changed now because of Holy Cross losing a couple of games here in the preseason, but nevertheless, playing in the first league game, essentially our top two teams. And you have the same thing developing in wrestling.
Absolutely. So, but regardless, it should be a fun game. Like you said, Joby, get there early. Get there early. You should probably, after this podcast, just leave now.
Yeah, Joe, the gymnasium at Holy Cross High School, the former Bishop O'Hara, is quite cozy.
Yeah, sure is. The only one that's smaller was Bishop Hannon's.
Right. So they look at very few options when the schools merged.
Yeah.
So it's going to be tight. There's going to be a huge crowd on hand. I mean, anytime you get a school district like Riverside, which is an very proud of their athletic programs, very passionate about them, coming off of a fantastic high school football season. Okay.
Yep.
And that kind of follows then into what they are expecting to be a great high school basketball season. So yeah, you're going to have to get there early, Joe. I'm not going to lie to you. I know Ben Tallarico, the principal there at Holy Cross, does me a solid every year and gets me a spot, but that'd be tight.
It sure will, Joby. So obviously Nico Antoniacci was not the only great basketball performance from last week. Let me rattle off a few. Jimmy Clark from Dunmore had 28 points, including 6 threes in a win over Montrose. He also added 16 points in a win over Mountain View.
Joe, can I stop you right there real quick? I hate to do that to you.
Of course you can.
Jimmy Clark, Dunmore High School right now. So you're looking, we just mentioned Holy Cross and Riverside battling in Division 2, right?
Yep.
Dunmore is also going to be in the mix in that Division 2 race. The Bucks, I think, are averaging somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 points a game early on.
Yep.
This is a good basketball team. This is a team that's kind of been built over the years, kind of waiting for this team to come together. And Old Forge is also one of the top teams in that division. What a division that they put together there with those teams.
Absolutely. Moving on to Michael Hughes. We had talked about Holy Cross. He had 27 points in a loss to Devon Prep over the weekend. A very good Devon Prep team. Had 18 points against Holy Ghost Prep. 9 in a win over Holy Redeemer and 13 in a win over Pittston area. Joby, a lot of preps and holies that they played. this week.
Yeah, and I want to shuffle through my notes here, Joe, but so Devon Prep won the last 2 state titles in Class 3A in boys basketball. Have since, again, they're part of that success, that competitive balance. They got bumped up to 4A this year, but I believe Devon Prep also eliminated Riverside from the state playoffs last year. So just keep an eye on that. That's a very good Devon Prep team. As you mentioned, 4 starters back from that group. And so we kind of get an idea what Holy Cross is bringing to this game on Thursday.
Absolutely. Out of West Scranton, Nate Schimmelfinnig had 33 points in a win over Nanticoke area. Also, we had
Joe. I feel good for a kid like Nathan Schimmelfinnig because here he is. He's at West Scranton. He's got a new coach and Haseen Dixon there. And anytime you see, a lot of times we just see the box scores.
Yeah.
I reached out to Nathan, and boy, he just felt so great about hitting that shot late in that game to help get West Scranton a victory and end a 4-game losing streak. So great job by him.
Absolutely. Natalie Goldstein out of Honesdale. She had 24 points in a win over Walnut Paupack. She also had 14 points in a loss to Pittston and 11 in a win over West. I apologize if I do not pronounce this first name right, but Jowyla McCullen out of Old Forge, 27 points in a win over Montrose and 25 points in a win over Forest City.
That's Julia.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
That makes way more sense. So we also have Abby Gellinger of Blue Ridge, 28 points in a win over Lakeland. Ella Clementoni from North Pocono, 27 points in a win over Shenango Forks. Chrissy Jiklinski out of Scranton had 27 points in a win over North Plainfield, 13 in a win over Valley West, and 12 in a loss to a very good Hazleton area team. So those are just some of the very good performances from last week in basketball, Joby.
Joe, so the girls basketball, what a great job by Kevin Clark and the staff over at Riverfront Sports, and of course the members of the faculty and the building organization over there at Lackawanna College to host that top tier Electric City Showcase over the weekend. And great job by the local teams that had such a great weekend. A lot of big victories over some really outstanding teams from outside the area and outside the state. And, I know Kevin Clark very well. I remember him as a basketball player, and he was always a real outgoing guy, and he's kind of fostered that into what is a great job and over there at Riverfront Sports Complex. He's doing an excellent job in bringing in talented players here. He coaches those AAU programs over there. And this was a nice event for these girls teams to kind of show off their talent and their skill set. And again, Joe, we've talked about this a couple of times here on this show, but we certainly have had discussions back when we used to have an office. The girls basketball in Northeast Pennsylvania is really second to none in the state.
Yeah, absolutely, Joby. And yeah, Kevin Clark used to shred my Bishop and Golden Lancers a lot. So
he was
that as well.
Very, very mild-mannered kid.
Yeah,
with hidden intensity that was very, very fiery and also very reflective of the Clark family. They did a nice story on them. We always do these nice stories around the holidays on the families as we headed toward the holiday tournament season. And the one I did a couple of years into this gig that I have was on the Clark family, and what a great family they have.
Absolutely. Yeah. Joby, what's coming up here in basketball?
Well, Joe, outside of that Riverside Holy Cross game, which is going to garner most of the headlines and attention moving forward. Now, I don't know what your schedule is going to be with the podcast over the holiday break, but of course we're going to have the Lina tournament over at Lackawanna College. We're going to have the Toronis tournament that brings together the 4 Valley teams. The Honesdale JC tournament will be celebrating probably its 100th year playing. No, it's been around a while, but they've got a lot. The Susquehanna. We have a lot of basketball tournaments going on, and I mentioned it to Nico there about how he's going to see how he's going to enjoy this. It really is a neat time, Joe. You participated in the holiday tournaments when you were in high school, and it is kind of neat to have family and friends And the big thing that I think that people do mention a lot is the graduates. Okay. And it's probably more recent graduates, but during the holidays, it does kind of expand through generations of graduates who come into these venues to see these holiday tournaments where they kind of get a chance to catch up with former teammates and classmates during the holidays at these tournaments. So it's a lot of fun for the players to go out there and play. A lot of pressure too, Joe. You know, everybody wants to bring home those championship trophies and banners.
You're absolutely right, Joby. I know. Remember from my playing days, we really, really wanted to win those titles. Really wanted to win that Lina tournament title. Didn't get it, but you know, it really is a fun time. Even before going to high school, when I was in grade school, I liked to go to the tournaments. You hit it on the head. It's really a great time to experience it. So we got a lot of good fun matchups coming up.
Joe, tell me, because I didn't play basketball, okay?
Yep.
And I pretty much have enjoyed. You have to remember, Joe, when I started covering basketball as one of my primary sports beats in this job, I had the luxury and the absolute privilege of having Jerry McNamara burst upon the scene in his freshman year. And so my great experience with basketball, as I try to tell everybody, is simply as a fan and a sports writer, where I kind of get an idea of the atmosphere sitting in the stands, mostly in these big venues and these big events. I toured with Jerry McNamara for 4 years while he was in high school, and then it, moved on to other teams and other players. But for you as a player, what's that atmosphere like out there on the court, Joe, during the holidays with playing in a full Lackawanna College student union?
There's really nothing else like it, Joby. It's weird to say this, but a lot of the time the thing that was really the coolest moment was really just, the stuff before the game where, you really, you walk into that gym, to whatever music is playing, and you just, you do the warm ups, and it's just, it's really an incredible thing that starting lineup, announcement, and just the fans going crazy. And then, Joby jumping on that pile and, on the floor. Do they still do that, Joby? I don't know. I haven't been to a high school game in a while.
I believe it. Holy Cross still does. I'm not
okay,
sure
good.
A lot of the other.
Good.
I think people try kind of backed away from that when somebody tore an ACL underneath that pile.
Okay, well, that's a problem. Yeah. So, but I'm glad to see Holy Cross maybe continuing that tradition that we have. But it's just, it's such a cool moment. And then the game starts, and I'm sure you've experienced this, but it kind of, once it starts, that crazy atmosphere, it just kind of like, it fades into the background, and then you just start to focus the game. And it's just funny. Like, I always have people saying, like, did you hear us spelling out your name? And I was just, I'd just be like, no, I didn't. Like, you'd just be so into the game, and it's the coolest, even though, like, it's like you could feel the crowd and you could grab energy from the crowd, but you have this interesting, like, feeling of, like, I am in this zone, and, playing this game I love, and, with my friends and teammates, and really, you're a family out there, and it's just, there really is, there's no experience like it, listening to, just grabbing that energy from the crowd who are there to support you, and they're giving all their energy, like, for you. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of fun. It's humbling. We're just high school basketball players at the time, but it means a lot. It's fun for people. It's fun for people on the floor as well. They obviously get very, very into it. I enjoyed, sometimes I did catch some of the chants, and they made me laugh. Dunmore always demanded that we play them in football instead. I always thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, as far as just the atmosphere. There's just nothing like walking out of that, just walking out onto that floor to the fans, no matter what court it is, but, especially those holiday tournaments, especially the line, it was pretty amazing. So yeah, I was just be really excited for these kids to experience that this holiday season.
Yeah, Joe, and I'm looking forward to the head-to-head matchups we have in that tournament this year. The tradition is very deep with this tournament. And this year, if you look at both of the boys and girls basketball rankings to this point, okay, Scranton is the defending champion of both the boys and the girls tournaments. Okay. You've got Scranton Prep, which is, boys team is outstanding. Girls team top ranked right now, probably the best girls basketball team we have in the area. Dunmore boys, we talked about them and how quickly they can pile up points in a basketball game. And you've got Holy Cross in the boys and girls. So, there's some really competitive and intense rivalries as part of this line of tournament as well. And again, that's a kind of a theme that plays out across the area. I don't just want to single out the line of tournament because I think each tournament has its own ambiance and its own tradition that I think really means a lot to this area, Joe.
Absolutely, Joby. So that's going to be an exciting time. It should be an exciting week. Well, obviously, Santa will come too, Joby. So that's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait for his arrival.
Exactly. You're on the nice list, right?
Joe, as long as he doesn't fall off my rooftop and I'm forced to put on his red jumpsuit, I think I'll be okay.
Of course. Oh, Joby, the Santa Claus is an absolute classic. I love it.
We'll talk about that stuff later.
Absolutely.
Joe, but it does bring me back to, I just wanted to touch base and I want to finish off a little bit of stuff with the high school football season for anyone who did see. I've been kind of on my soapbox recently, but one of the things that I pointed out in social media was the attendance for the state championships were announced. And I can remember back when I played in high school, I played a couple of terrific games where, they were very, important games, playoff games, championship type atmospheres and whatnot. I can remember playing in front of 8,000 people when we played Valley View in a home game in a regular season. We played Williamsport on the road. It was about 18 degrees for that game, and it was just an intense battle. And then the following week, we played in front of about 6,500, 7,000 people against Tunkhannock. And I think that that's one of the things that has kind of come away from a little bit in football because of the advent of the district and state playoffs, that the crowds aren't quite what they used to be across the board in the state football. But I have also seen a little bit of a drop off in basketball. And part of that is this whole public versus private debate. You play a private school, which you attended, Joe. I don't want to insult you, but there's always this, thing that rages on about, the teams out of Philadelphia don't really bring big crowds, whether they are public or private. They don't bring really big crowds to the state playoffs. You don't have that same atmosphere that you have at these high school local tournaments that we tend to generate with these local rivalries. So maybe there's some truth to that. I don't know, but I certainly have seen a pattern of attendance dropping in other sports. So we'll see how that plays out here over the holidays.
Yeah, absolutely, Joby. You did have a nice column over the weekend.
Well, Joe, I don't want people to misconstrue what I was trying to say. It was not any way that I was trying to take away from the great accomplishments of these schools that are privately funded, okay?
Of course not.
Or the Catholic school system, okay?
Yep.
I am just suggesting that maybe we are at a point or a crossroads, and we probably had been at it a couple of times over the last 20 years, or at least 10 years into the state football playoffs. But Joe, you hear about it every year at basketball season at the end. After the Giant Center, you have a half dozen or 8 champions that are crowned in the boys and girls tournaments that are from these private schools and Catholic schools. And again, I'm not begrudging anybody. If I had the opportunity and the resources to send my children to a private school, if that was the best opportunity for them moving forward and the best option for my family, I would certainly do that. Any parent or guardian would do that for their child, okay? But I do think it is worth looking into and not doing it in such a hostile way. There's no reason why we have to be adversarial in this. Mm-hmm. We just simply have to look at it as creating more opportunities for teams to experience the possibility of being what I did define as what would be a watered down state championship. I just think it's worth looking into. That's all. And if the state comes back and the legislature comes back and says, no, this is a time for inclusivity and, we want to make sure that everybody's treated equally. Okay. Well, then it does fall upon the shoulders of the PIAA or whoever to come up with some different types of rules to level a playing field that somewhat is getting skewed in favor of schools that can kind of construct their lineups. I'm not saying anybody's doing that, right, but certainly can do that, as opposed to a public school which can only use the resources within its boundaries. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
That's true, Joby. And, frankly, I know it's very strange. I've never really had an opinion on the topic. I
never did either, Joe, until this past season.
I know that obviously people have talked about this for a very long time. I know when I was playing, and again, I went to a Catholic high school, Bishop Hannon, and then to Holy Cross. But I don't know. I'd never, this is going to kind of be, kind of a, but I'll just say it. I never really, I never thought about it while I was in high school. It was kind of just like, the next opponent, we just got to beat them. It's never really entered my mind, like, whether they were, public or private or anything. I just knew, especially when we got to the state playoffs and, we were looking at Emotep Charter, and then, if we beat them, we were playing Strawberry Mansion. If we beat them, we were playing Jeanette. And I don't know. I just always looked at it as, what a cool opportunity to play the best teams. And I don't know. I never looked at it. I absolutely think, like you're saying, Joby, that it's worth looking into, obviously, and seeing what can happen. And I understand people speaking out about it. It's just, it's weird to say that I've never really had an opinion on it.
Joe, I never did either.
Yeah.
And I, again, was raised and competed at the high school level of you were to challenge and go against and try to beat any opponent that was put in front of you.
Right. Exactly.
The times have changed.
Yeah.
Whether we want to admit it as sports writers or former athletes or not, the landscape clearly has changed. Joe. Now, it doesn't get that much publicity in our area because we really only have in the Lackawanna Interscholastic Athletic Association, Scranton Prep, and Holy Cross.
Right.
Okay. In District 2, then you throw into the mix Wyoming Seminary and Holy Redeemer.
Yep.
Okay. You have to remember in Philadelphia, they have the Catholic League.
Right.
Okay. They also may as well have a charter school league.
Right.
But those teams compete in the public school system. And Joe, this really wasn't necessarily the way things were done even when you were in high school, but those players and those athletes are moving around school district to school district, year to year.
Yeah.
They're bouncing around just almost like college kids now. And that scenario is playing out more and more. And clearly, any public school that gets beaten by a private school at the highest level is going to feel it got an unfair shake. Okay.
Right.
Do I always fall on the side of it's an unfair shake? No, you got to remember, it was a different era though when I was in school.
Right. Even me, Joby. I mean,
well, right, Joe. If I remember correctly, the Philadelphia schools had just come into the PIAA.
Yeah.
I think 1 or 2 years into your varsity career.
I believe that's correct. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So Yeah, I mean, I just think it gets magnified a little bit more now than it used to because you know as well as anybody, Joe, we're in an AAU travel ball world.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, that's the system. That's anything you can do for your children to excel or benefit. I applaud that initiative and that desire to do that. You always want to do what's best for your children.
Certainly, absolutely.
I only feel, and I think what tends to happen, Joe, when this discussion is brought up is you hurt feelings on both sides.
Yeah. Yep.
And everyone's really sensitive to that you're kind of downplaying the success of the private schools if you're saying that they have an unfair advantage over the public schools, and they get insulted by that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I don't ever want to come off as doing that because I'm very proud of all of the successes that any school district that we cover and the coaching staffs at those schools and the administrations at those schools, any level of success that they have, certainly on the big stage, I am extremely proud and happy for those kids because when it comes down to it, Joe, regardless if you're a private school student or a public school student, the championships, the wins and losses all come down to the dedication, commitment, and the ability of the players in those uniforms.
Absolutely, Joby, and to kind of extend it to all sports at all levels. I mean, look, everything has flaws or perceived flaws or things that can be improved. I mean, look at college sports right now.
Yeah, let's jump to that, Joe.
I mean, you've got seriously. I mean, and NIL, is my team, Michigan, just bought their next quarterback for $12 million and let him pick the offensive coordinator. This NIL thing is a complete shift from, listen, I think these athletes absolutely deserve to be paid. It's just interesting how it's gone from like nothing to everything, it's just like, that's like the college football and more so obviously the college football system, because that's the biggest sport. It's still flawed and it will be ever changing. And I'm sure there will be changes to it. I mean, the 12-team college football playoff, look at Joby, look at baseball, look at the changes that baseball had to make because the game became too boring. 3 outcome, strikeout, home run, walk. It became too boring. Look at the NBA right now, the things that are happening. I watched a Laker game the other day, Joby. It was like 3 hours long. Like it was because there were, I believe, like 90 free throws or something. I don't think you go to basketball games to watch free throws. It's like there's always continuing things that you could talk about, try to improve. There's things on both sides. It doesn't make it, it's just a good talking point. It's good to debate. Like it's a good thing to bring this stuff in all across the board in sports, Joby. So this is just, this will always be a debate and is absolutely worth talking about if there are ways you can improve sports in any way.
That's correct, Joe. And listen, look at the college football landscape. You're right. It went from 0 to 60.
Right.
Joe, I am an imitation former collegiate athlete at a much smaller level than any of these guys. And our compensation was our scholarships back then. Okay. And maybe a little spending money to buy some books. Okay.
Right.
No one could have ever envisioned when the cry for paying and compensating collegiate athletes, which is fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
But when you just went to a free for all and you've got college athletes making more money than the professional athletes, then there's a
real issue there, Joby.
That's an issue. And then, Joe, on top of that, okay, you mentioned the NBA. All right. Look, I caught an NBA game. I can't believe I tortured myself with this. But the game has changed where they're just running up and down the floor, chucking 3-pointers.
Yes, a lot of 3-pointers. Yeah, seriously. I think, again, there were like 90 in in a game or something and 48 were made. It's just, and again, they can make these, it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to offer different things to change the game and everything. And that's what we're doing.
I'm not necessarily causing or asking for an overhaul. I just want people to sit down in a room and not simply say, because for too long in the PIAA, which is fine. I've always defended Bob Lombardi, the executive director of PIAA. His hands are tied for the most part. Okay. The legislature dictates that every school must be treated equally. Okay. When it comes to how you classify them within the parameters of the rules. Okay.
Yep.
I don't think it's too much to ask for a group of very intelligent people to get together and say, okay, let's at least look at it. Let's at least examine it. Let's at least say, hey, listen, who is this really hurting?
Right.
If we were to separate this.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. And if it's not, let's make steps to improve. I don't have any problem making steps to improve. That's the only reason I even brought it up was, again, like I said, Joe, I'm in your camp. I didn't have much of an opinion on it until now, but I just seem like these are good discussions to have as you and I are trying to launch this wildly popular podcast.
Exactly. Joby, there's dozens of people listening, dozens. So, all right, let's see what else we could get to here, Joby. First of all, I want to mention, obviously, I believe you're going to have a story on it that'll be in tomorrow's paper. Scranton Prep star quarterback committed to Franklin and Marshall. I just wanted to say off the top that, it's unfortunately, injuries happen and Lewis Parrish is going to miss the wrestling season this year. And it's just, my heart goes out to him. It's disappointing to see, especially a guy like that who made such a leap in the sport from sophomore to junior year. I was going to be really excited to see what he could accomplish this year. And it really sucks that he won't be able to do that, but good for him in making his decision.
Terrific kid right there, Joe. We are going to talk with Lewis this afternoon after I get done chit-chatting with you here on the podcast. Look, anytime you have a situation where a young man suffers what is a really, really scary injury, you always want to see at the very least his accomplishments and everything that all the work and the dedication that he had to his sport rewarded. And I'm real happy for the kid to be able to have an opportunity to attend college and continue his academic and athletic careers. It's going to be a lot of work for this young man because he's got to first get healthy and then have to make that transition. So he certainly has the character to withstand the challenges he's going to be facing, and we wish him the very best of luck.
Absolutely. Also, Joby, my beat wrestling, we had some more really great performances over the weekend at tournaments. We're probably going to mention every week, but West Scranton's Michael Terry won a title at the Penstro Leasing Kickoff Classic, which I believe used to be the Cumberland Valley Kickoff Classic, but now it's the Penstro, so good for them. But he beats a kid, I believe, who is ranked number 2 in the state in Class 2A. So just another big victory for him. Connor Legier, also out of West Scranton, won a title at the same tournament, and Delaware Valley's Chris Delabella as well. On the girls' side, Honesdale's Madison Miller, Wallenpaupack's Gia Silva won titles at the Queen of the Hill tournament at Honesdale High School. Madison Miller, a freshman, probably someone to keep an eye on. I haven't seen her wrestle yet, but she had a big weekend, went 5-0, had 4 pins and a technical fall. So big weekend for her. Also in the world of wrestling, Steve Krasnowski, coach of Wallenpaupack, got his 300th career victory last week. Steve's a great guy.
Congratulations, Steve. Yeah.
Absolutely. He's been doing that for about 25 years. So good for him. Other than that, now, obviously, tomorrow, Joby, there's a big matchup. And again, I don't know how weather is going to affect anything this week. I've heard things about weather, I think, on every day. But I don't know. Who knows? Maybe nothing will happen. But anyway, big league matchup, Division I matchup. The league openers are tomorrow in wrestling, but the one I will be at is West Scranton at Wallenpaupack. A big Division I matchup. These are two teams that battled in the district duels final last year to a 29-28 victory for West Scranton, but these are two really good returning teams. It should be a fun match to watch. And on Saturday, going back to Wallenpaupack for the Lackawanna League Championships. Cool event. All the teams are there, all 16 Lackawanna League teams. And it's a cool early season tournament. I suppose in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't mean a ton, but it's cool. It creates some interesting matchups that you might not see, that you might only see there because all the weights wrestle each other. There's no classification separation. It's just all the Lackawanna League wrestling each other at the weight classes. So it's always a fun event and just a real cool kickoff. So I'm excited for that. That's 9 a.m. on Saturday. That starts in Wallenpaupack. So other than that, Joby,
it's always nice I always get excited for you when you get a chance to get out in the field. Make sure your coffee is black and you're good to go on Saturday morning.
Exactly.
Anyone who doesn't know you as well as I do, Joe, you are not far from a morning person.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're going to have to get those sleepies out of your eyes quite early on Saturday morning and get your butt up to Wallenpaupack High School, which is a great venue, by the way.
Exactly. And, the concession stand workers are always wonderful to me. So, I'll grab some donuts or.
Okay. Any truth to the fact that some of the concessions, they had to double the orders, Joe, for any of the food for your arrival? Was that true?
No comment, Joby. No comment.
Well, Joe, while you're doing that and you're working hard, I'm going to take Saturday off because, as you know, Penn State's in action at noon in the first college football playoff game at Beaver Stadium. It's going to be about 18 degrees for that kickoff.
Exactly.
Should be nice. And then a full day of college football for us on Saturday, Joe.
Exactly. Joby, how do you feel about, I don't know what kind of, you have one tie to SMU, and obviously that's your favorite running back of all time, Eric Dickerson.
Joe, the Pony Express. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, exactly.
See, you have to remember, I was growing up in the 1980s, the early 80s, Eric Dickerson and Craig James were just, first of all, they were making a lot more money than anybody else, probably than their coaches at SMU at the time. But I didn't worry about that stuff. None of that stuff was a big deal to anybody back in the 80s. And remember, Joe, of course, I've told you this 1,000 times. Eric Dickerson is by far my favorite player, bar none. There's not even anybody close. And I even used to wear the horse collar that he wore, the same one I had to order it special, just so I could wear the same one that he had. And when I was a freshman in high school, I was number 19 because he was number 19. And then I changed to number 29 because my favorite number, 26, wasn't available.
Oh, yeah.
And he actually wore 29 too, and he was with the Los Angeles Rams. And so it's a tough matchup for me there with SMU and Penn State. I guess I'll be happy either way.
No, that's true.
Whoever comes out of that game. And then, Joe, look, it's the first college football playoff. I'm going to enjoy watching the games.
Absolutely. It's going to be, it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. I will say Penn State, their path is relatively easier.
Remember what I told you last podcast, Joe? The game is in front of you.
That's right. So
don't look at the path.
So exactly. We'll see what happens there.
Joe, Notre Dame's in action on Friday night, am I correct?
Notre Dame is absolutely in action on Friday night.
Against Indiana, right?
Yep, against Indiana. The Irish just extended their coach for 4 more years, I believe.
Marcus Freeman, he's worth that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, it's going to be an exciting weekend of college football for sure.
And Joe, before I let you go, okay, I have to thank you and your Green Bay Packers for your impressive victory on NBC Sunday Night Football.
Of course.
Which allowed the Los Angeles Rams to overtake Seattle and are now sitting in first place in the NFC West standings.
How about that, Joby? Listen,
Thank you, Joe.
Of course. I said I would deliver. And Joby, I wanted to point out that earlier this year you were very down on the Rams, and now all of a sudden they have a win over the Bills and an absolutely invigorating victory over the Niners in just an absolute battle of 12-6. So, it's looking okay for the Rams here. They just might win this division.
Joe, in typical Los Angeles Rams fashion, they will, I promise you, lay an egg this week against the New York Jets.
That would be so disappointing, Joby.
Sure would.
So disappointing. I also want to point out that the Packers are 10-4.
That's correct, Joe, and you're in third place in the NFC, by the way.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, we beat the entire NFC West this season.
Actually, you're in fourth place, right?
Yeah. Well, we are, fourth place record-wise, and we will be, if it ended today, we'd be the 6th seed in the playoffs. So I don't, well, let's not get into that, but I think that's rather
left to be played, Joe.
Exactly. So we'll see how it goes. But right now, our team's looking pretty good, Joby. Looking pretty good.
Very early, Joe.
That's true.
I'm not getting too pumped up just yet.
Right. So three games left, I believe. So we'll see.
Yep.
We'll see what happens there. Well, Joby, I think that's. Oh, can I mention one thing that
it's your show, Joe.
How hard is it to carry the ball over the goal line when you were playing, Joby? Did you ever want to drop the ball before you crossed the plane, or what? You have anything that ever happened like that when you were playing?
The closest I ever came to that, Joe, was I caught a touchdown pass that won the game against Abington Heights, and I spiked the ball, but I was probably about 5 yards inside the end zone. I somehow avoided a 15-yard penalty for spiking the ball. But that being said, I didn't score that often on long runs to have the opportunity to drop it before I crossed. I had a reputation of fumbling, Joe, if that qualifies, but no. These guys, everybody, it's a show now, Joe. This is made for TV. This is no longer about the execution and fundamentals, especially at the professional level. So, hey, listen, if they fumble and they lose possession, they don't score, that's on them.
It's absolutely on them. Please, this is just run through the back of the end zone and then do whatever the heck you want. That's all I'm asking. But anyway, I think that just about wraps it up for us,
all right,
Joby.
Enjoy your very busy weekend. I'm glad to see you out there.
Absolutely. Getting out there. And, Joby, I don't know, as far as the podcast, I don't know the schedule we'll keep next week. Obviously, Christmas is Wednesday, so we got a lot of stuff going on. So in case we don't speak on this platform before the holidays, Merry Christmas.